Blessings, my dear.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for accepting my invitation.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always happy to speak with you and share the blessings that is spirituality in the modern day.
Sure. It was, necessary to have this conversation, I think, in a way, right?
Yeah, 100%. Welcome. That's
Welcome.
Drigo, the one Drigo, the one and only
Hi.
Drigo.
Oh, Drigo. Hi, Drigo. How are you doing?
Okay,
Oh,
so
yeah, I don't know.
it's time, 7:01. Let's
Yeah,
do. I'm on Zoom as well, but I'll start with a mantra while you figure that out.
go ahead, please. Thank
Okay.
you so much.
Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Sahana Vavatu Sahano Vunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahe Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om blessed self in all adorations. Namaste, one and all, to this gathering. Eva, what do you call your gatherings?
This is an online weekly podcast that is called World Culture or Cultura de la Palabra. It's a bilingual online weekly podcast, and it's basically an opportunity to speak with creatives, to get to know each other, collaborate, and also get to know what is going on with the people with the coronavirus. How are you doing, my friend? How is it going? How is the coronavirus treating you?
I don't see much change in my lifestyle. I stay pretty much here at the Skylight Yoga Ashram, and the spiritual teacher has always been located in one place, and from there, writing books and sending videos and articles and publications out. So stillness is not a foreign thing for me.
It's like your regular life, right?
Yes, it is. It is indeed.
So how, let's say, why don't you explain first? Let me introduce yourself, right? For people that don't know you, even though we're on your Instagram, we're also in my Instagram, right?
Yeah,
So a lot of
sorry.
people don't know what you do. So what is it that you do? What is your organization? Skylight Yoga, right? What is it about?
Skylight Yoga, love.
How is that? Tell me about it. How come?
Skylight Yoga, physical strength, mental stability, and spiritual grace are the greatest treasures one could ever attain. And as you mentioned, the whole point of this live session right now is because of the coronavirus, and we're going to shine some light of the self, light of spirituality on what is happening right now in society.
We don't know the answers. We don't have all the answers. I don't pretend to have all the answers. But I think it's important to communicate, right? To get to know each other, get to learn from each other how we are surviving and how we're dealing with this. Because I think it's not only about us, right? It's about a lot of people that are, in different situations. What, in your experience, a teacher, what would you recommend, to people on how to deal with this situation from the spiritual point of view? Let's say from your practice of yoga, your daily or yearly practice of yoga. How many years have you been practicing yoga?
How many lifetimes? Many lifetimes. I don't know. So many lifetimes.
But let's say in this one, the one that you are kind of aware of, right? Or more aware of.
This one, I think it's like 15 or 16 years. something like this.
So why yoga? Why do you like it?
Wow, yoga for me is not a question of if I like it or not.
Why you came into yoga? Why yoga came into you?
It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. Yoga is who I am. Yoga first introduced me to who I am, and yoga every day is a movement for me to realize and know who I am. Yes. So
it sounds too simple. Too good.
Just sounds too simple. We say these things very quickly. Blessings, Angela. We say these things so quickly, but it is obviously takes a lot of teaching and practice to get it right. And mastery of something, mastery of a normal worldly thing, like mastery of, pastry chef, or mastery of accounting, or mastery of skateboarding, or whatever it is. Those kinds of things take, their time. When you talk about spiritual mastery, you got a whole different ballgame happening right now. Spiritual mastery, it's the mastery of the self. We're mastering something that is so natural and so near to us, but we haven't met it yet.
Are you considered a millennial?
Am I considered a millennial? I'm 30 years of age. My body is 30 years of age.
So you have no age. Right? I'm asking because for me, it's very nice that a person that is young, like you, young and handsome.
Make this proper.
So, to the teachings of such an old tradition. And I think in your case, your practice, what distinguishes, as far as I can say, I have, go here and there, practice, it's that you go back to the basics, right? You go back to how yoga used to be taught by the masters, right? By the people who started first. So what can you tell me about this?
That's right, Ava.
Why do you do it like that?
Your discerning eye has caught on to it.
Yeah, because I have been looking for, practices of yoga, and I really like yours because of that, what I just said, right?
Yeah. Well, that's right, because we have those masters to thank for yoga being here right now in this world. Without the selfless endeavors, lifetimes and lifetimes of selfless endeavor by a soul, it came to realize itself, and out popped a Buddha, out popped a Jesus, out popped a Rama in one lifetime. We consider those the spiritual giants. But what we don't realize is that it took many, many lifetimes of purification and endurance to attain that blessed goal of life. Blessing, Sandrine, state of yoga. Yes. So the spiritual masters, it's the most potent when you go to the scriptures, when you go to the source, to the masters, what are called the shrutis and smritis. The shrutis, those scriptures that are heard, and then these shrutis, which are the revelations upon those scriptures. That's the original teaching of yoga, and that's the one that has the most potency. That's why it's called the nectar of immortality. So bringing it back to this today modern coronavirus thing, the virus being fear, but what is the fear about? It is about mortality.
And how do you solve that question in your practice? I mean,
the fear, why is the fear there, is because it's mortality. We don't want to die. We don't want to lose this little mind, body, ego complex. We cherish our personality so much. So when we have this disease rampant in the world, we're really scared about our physical body's health and this little personality going on, and seeing the results of this personality. Well, we neglect our deeper nature with God, with the self, the absolute self, which does take on the bodies and take on the minds but those bodies and minds are not who we are. We are the self.
My friend, what would you tell the regular folk that about yoga? Why is it important? I wanted to talk to you about it because I think, as I told you, right, yoga is such a powerful thing because it changes it puts you in a place of inquiry, right? With yourself, with everything that you are. It's such a weird process, and it's supposedly it's a physical exercise, but it's something else. What would you say to a regular folk to motivate anybody, to do yoga? Why yoga? Why is it important?
That's quite the question. Well, let me just say that what we normally think about yoga, the postures, physical poses, are 3.125% of yoga. So the physical body has to be kept clean and pure. Joints need to be lubricated. Organs need to be free of those plaques, and arteries need to be free of blockages, etc. So you ask a doctor and they'll tell you how to keep your physical body clean and pure and healthy. Ask the doctor and follow their advice. But if it comes to your mind and your soul, you ask a yogi. So now you talk about the mind. Now, where is the mind and what is the mind? The people are familiar with chakras these days. The word chakra is...
Tell me a little bit about it. Tell me. I have a very minimal knowledge, honestly, about it.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly. So chakra becomes a household word, but we don't have an idea what the chakra is. So you cannot see a love that a mother has for her child. Coming up on Mother's Day right now, right? So you cannot see that love that a mother has for her child. But does that mean it's not there?
Of course it is.
Right.
It's untangible.
So now we're going into something that is real, but you can't see it, smell it, taste it, touch it, right? So this is where yoga leads you, and this is about the mind, is that your mind is incredibly powerful. And it's gone on receiving impressions by the thoughts we've had, by the words we've spoken, and by the actions that we've done. Yeah? People get asked questions. Mind is receiving these impressions, and that's what people call like pattern living, unconscious living, pattern living, is because those impressions, known as samskaras in Sanskrit, give rise to vasanas, which are subtle desires. Those subtle desires produce karmas. And those karmas and vasanas and samskaras keep repeating and keep repeating.
What would you say to those people who are kind of concerned because of the amount of options that are out there? How do you go about it when it comes to practicing, yoga or any spiritual practice?
Right. So hold that question. I want to finish the thing on the chakras and the nadis, right?
Oh, I saw you finish.
Encyclopedias of knowledge, with knowledge here. We got to go slower so people can take it in. So you're always going fast. So the chakras and the nadis, those nadis, so we can't see the love that a mother has for her child, but that does not mean it's not there. That is a reality. So the realities that we're normally used to facing in our day-to-day life are only physical realities we can touch, see, smell, taste, and feel. There are deeper realities, and that deepest of the deep reality is known as Atman or Brahman. It is you, Eva. It is I. It is everyone and everything. When we don't understand this, when we don't experience this, we're living in what is called an illusion. And that illusion someone we're not. We live misidentification with who we are. We think that we are this body and this mind and this personality, but we are this most deepest.
What we have told that we should be, right? Our narrative.
Exactly. What we've been taught, what we've been conditioned to believe and think that we are. So when we go to this deepest reality, there are no conditions, there are no bodies, there are no minds. It is the very sustainer and creator and destroyer of all bodies and minds and personalities. When one does not know that, aka everyone who's not enlightened, when we now practice yoga to attain this realization and this experience of our innate bliss that we are promised, we're moving through now mind and body, and we have to utilize our mind and body in specific ways if we want to allow the spiritual fragrance to waft from this in this flower. Okay, so when those nadis are blocked, see, we don't understand how to use this body and how to use this mind. So we go on and doing things and promoting behaviors and actions and lifestyle that create blockages both in the nadis, the astral body, the energetic body, the subtle body, as well as in the physical body. When there's a blockage in the nadis, there's a blockage in the physical body. It all goes back to that original ignorance of not knowing oneself and thinking that we are the body, mind, ego complex. We do actions and behaviors that promote that misidentification of body, mind, ego complex, causing blockage in our energy body. That blockage in the energy body produces a dis-ease in the physical body. Om Tat Sat. Okay, now you had a question earlier. What was that one?
We were talking about chakras, right? And I was asking you, what would you say to a person that wants to practice yoga, but it's kind of motivated, but not there yet?
Mm-hmm.
Is it really important to practice it? Would you recommend it to anybody, or is it for some people?
Yoga is for every person of every walk of life, no matter your name, your fame. How's that? How your name, fame, and social status, and your religion, and your caste, and your occupation, and your education, and your gender, and your height, and your weight, and your skin color, all are illusory. Therefore, the reality that you are is upheld in the yoga practice. Therefore, it is for everyone. There is no person, no being that cannot practice yoga.
But isn't it too hard? Let's say. Isn't it
too hard? Tell me, Ava, if it's hard, and everyone who's watching for right now, is it hard for a ray of the sun to understand and realize and experience that it is the sun? Is that hard?
I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea. I cannot answer for a ray of sun.
Think about it, Ava. I'm asking you to do this thought experiment with me. A ray of the sun. Now one thinks that it's separate from the sun. Now the process of yoga is to unite ray and the sun because they're essentially one. Right? A ray of the sun and the sun are not different. It's just an illusion that the ray looks different than the sun. So tell me, is it hard for a ray of the sun to know it is the sun?
Oh, to know? No, I guess.
It's not. And to experience it because you all already are the sun.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the realization. That's revelation. That's enlightenment, is to know that you are the sun.
I have another question. I'm sorry, but this is the moment to ask you every question that I have. Why I have heard several times to you and other people that are inclined to recommend a guru, right? For your yoga practice. Why do we need a guru? Because me, coming from Cuba, I'm kind of like, I don't want any authoritarian thing, and I know it's not about that, but what would you say?
That's right. You have it correct that there is a aversion in society to gurus and taking a teacher and accepting the teacher and putting your forehead or your hands to the feet of the teacher. You're bowing to the feet of the teacher. There's an incredible aversion to that. People say, "Oh, I'm not gonna prostrate to any human being. You know, no man or woman is above me, and I'm not gonna give my power away." It's completely different in the spiritual context. In the guru-shishya relationship, it's known as the guru-shishya relationship, is a one based on complete and utter devotion, Eva. It's complete and utter devotion. And that's the most sacred. That's why it is reserved for ashrams, and very few spiritual seekers actually seek a qualified guru to lead them in the practice of yoga. Why is it necessary? Well, if you want to learn something basic in the world, you take a teacher for it. So you're going to need to take a teacher regardless for spirituality, right? But then there comes the question of, if my guru is wrong, sometimes, could it be possible that the guru is
you have to know how to choose your guru, right? You cannot be any guru.
And that you feel and know intuitively, because.
But what about, don't you say also we are our own gurus? How do you combine both?
When one is seeking the revelation of the self, the knowledge of the self, the expounding of all the scriptures, of all philosophies, all spirituality, all of yoga, the culmination of that practice is realization, self-realization, enlightenment. That's not an ordinary task, Eva, and for everyone who's watching. If you seek actually to know the full revelation, the full experience.
We are live.
Yeah.
We are live on Facebook.
Of who you are. It's not an ordinary process.
Are you on Facebook too?
Nope, but I am welcoming the vegan trap lord himself from the Bila, the Delight Juice Bar, Vegetarian Delights, Miami Gardens. Yeah.
Can you recap a little bit? Okay. So hello everyone that is watching now. We were scheduled for 7 o'clock and we couldn't make it because of some technical difficulties. And I am on live on Instagram. And
right. So.
Are you here?
Yes. And
oh, wait. Welcome again. And yeah. I'm sorry that we are doing this like this, but you know. So welcome again. This is another chapter of World Culture or Cultura de la Palabra, which is a weekly online podcast that I started in April. Because of the coronavirus, I was like, let me do this. I wanted to do it from a long time ago, but I didn't know how to put it together. So, all right.
Oh, all right. Here we go. Live.
All right.
Skylight Yoga Ashram. Here we go. We are with Eva and Alafia Creative Entertainment. So Alafia Creative Entertainment, what does that do?
Well, you know, this is an idea that I had when I finished my PhD in Miami 4 years ago, on organizing and structuring, you know, my interests, on my research interests, and, you know, try to do something with that. So it's basically arts education. I'm creating an arts education program, which is basically based on, you know, Spanish classes with a twist, let's say a cultural component, where we teach Spanish as a cultural immersion experience, meaning through arts appreciation or, you know, analysis of news, current topics. And yeah, that's and also it's going to be a space for, you know, making events of all kinds. And this is part of it because for me, it's very important, I think, communication, right? Especially in coronavirus times. So this is a way for me to structure this desire to communicate with other people that are doing, you know, making a difference. And I think you are one of those people. That is why you're invited here. And thank you so much for what you do. Can you please explain a little bit of what you do with Skylight Yoga, please?
100% I can explain what we do at Skylight Yoga. Skylight Yoga is a school of spirituality, a school of powerful, practical, and profound teachings that aim at the central three questions of all of spirituality, which is, who am I? What is my purpose? And what is my goal? And right now my goal is to make this mustache curl the same curl as the other one next to it. What do you think about that goal? See, and there are three types of realities in yoga philosophy, all of Vedanta, spiritual practice. If you look at all the spiritual practices, you'll find three of these levels of realities. There's the practical level of reality, which is your day-to-day function, your practical realities, your physical objects, and these kinds of things. You're having apparent realities. You're having thoughts and ideas and memories and experiences that are not of this, they're related to this physical reality, but they're completely in your mind. They're completely apparent, abstract. Like a dream.
Do you work on the main suffering of the modern subject, which is that we are always in our head, right?
In your dream, it's not reality. It's an apparent reality. Okay? So that's the second reality. Then the third one is your absolute reality, who you actually are, and what all this actually is. And all the spiritual traditions tell us that it's one reality that pervades all of this and pervades you.
Say to those people who think that they know who they are.
Great. If you think you know who you are, great. If you know who you are, great. But if you think you know who you are, that's a problem.
Tell me.
Because the mind is a very fickle and the ego doesn't like to be seen.
So what yoga does to the ego? Why do we have a problem with the ego? What is the problem that we have?
This is a great question to clear up for everyone. Is what does yoga do to the ego? It effaces it. It completely sublimates the ego. What does that mean, efface the ego or sublimate the ego? The ego is this prop. It's actually, so you are standing behind a wall of props. The ego puts up a wall of props around it. That's what you think and what everyone in the world thinks that you are. But yoga goes down with the wrecking ball of wisdom and goes down and dismantles completely that facade, that artificial structure that was the ego, completely destroys it. What it would destroy is
Is that possible to destroy the ego?
No, I don't mean destroy as in gets rid of it. I mean effaces it, sublimates it. How does that work? That you will always have the ego. The ego is never going to leave you. This is very important. Okay, so you always have to have the ego as long as you're in this mind-body embodiment in your prarabdha karma. But what happens to the ego when we practice yoga and when we attain enlightenment? Well, we can now give thanks for the blessings from our spiritual master, our teacher, the holder of our lineage, the real leader of Skylight Yoga, His Holiness Sri Swami Jyotirmayananda, who is right behind me on the altar. And his teaching is this about the ego. It's that it's always going to be there so long as you have a body mind. Within mind you have ego. When you are having what is known as a tamasic ego means an ego that is inert. it works as like a walking stick, and you're using that walking stick to move forward to your destination, your goal, which is self-realization, where all souls are moving toward, unconsciously or consciously. You're walking with this walking stick, which is your prop. You use it to propel you forward, right? The ego is a tool for you. It is not who you are. So this tamasic ego completely is perverted and completely completely distorts reality. That's the ego of a very egoistic person, a very tamasic person. Then, with increasing purification, the ego becomes slightly more opaque. And that walking stick, you can see through it now a little bit. You can see reality, but it's still slightly distorted, slightly opaque, not giving you the true picture. And therefore, your path will go like this. It will wind and wind. You'll maybe go in circles and then keep going forward. With this rajasic ego, rajasic means activity, constant activity and stimulation. The ego that a yogi seeks is to efface the tamasic and rajasic ego, adopting for a sattvic ego, which is completely pure and transparent. That walking stick, which is supporting you your whole life, is completely transparent and does not distort reality. Who you are, the walker.
Okay. So we were talking on Instagram that why would you, let's say, I personally, according to my experience with yoga, I personally recommend yoga to everyone, especially in these times, because for me, it has been very challenging, but very nice to realize how much benefit I can get from yoga, especially trying to get a balance, right, between the body and the mind. And we were talking about this topic of balance. When we talk about balance, what do we mean?
Balance.
Is it like a personal experience, or is it like a collective experience? Is it like a spiritual goal? Is it like something attainable?
It's everything that you just mentioned. Yeah, balance on multiple levels. You want to have a balance in your waking and your sleeping. You want to have a balance with your thirst and with your having thirst quenched. You want to have a balance with your hunger, and you want to have a balance with satiation. So always there's a balance on this physical level, because you cannot overload or upset that balance, otherwise you'll have physical problems to deal with. The balance in the mind that people talk about. The balance of the mind that is heralded now across the entire world. Mindfulness, that buzzword of mindfulness, is now across the whole world. And people are seeking mental health. So what does balance of mind mean? Well, that balance of mind means equanimity. It means having the serenity, that jewel, the cool shower of serenity, the nectarine shower of peace in your mind. That's true balance. That's true balance, right? So it's like you imagine a water, pool of water, a lake, and the waves are completely choppy and you cannot see through the bottom of the lake. You cannot see past the surface. So then the mind gets a little bit more calm. The waves subside. The waves get a little more shallow, and they become ripples. Once your mind you're gathering more control over your mind, those waves become ripples. You can start to see down to the bottom of the lake, but not quite clearly because of those ripples are distorting your vision. Finally, when you gain complete control over the mind, and the mind is unshakable like a candle in a cave, in a windless cave, when the mind becomes like that, the surface of the water becomes completely still, and you can peer down through the depths of that lake into the very ground of the lake who you are. And that is the benefit of a balanced mind.
And that can be attained through yoga, through a regular practice of yoga, right?
The direct realization and balancing of your mind and integration of your personality happens through yoga. It is the most direct.
What would you say to these people that, I mean, my question is the following. Let me rephrase it. There's a trend towards working out, physical strength, and we are so obsessed with how we look. Therefore, a lot of people, we go into like these practices, right, of doing exercise, etc. How yoga is different from that?
Different from exercise.
Yeah, for this workout that you go and then because you want to look good, which is okay, we all want to look good, but what would you say to these people that are all concerned about how they look only when they do a practice?
Well, it comes back to our first thing that we said about the physical body not being who you are. You're not this physical body, you're not this mind, and you're not this ego personality. The word personality, you know where it comes from?
No.
Persona. Mm-hmm. And the persona was when in old Greek theater, they were doing acting in the theater, and the persona was the mask that the actor would go on stage with. Personality is a mask. It's not who you are.
And we have 7, right?
So when the personality is unintegrated and disbalanced, we come all kinds of problems. This is the human condition. But when that personality begins to be integrated and begins to be harmonized, the beautiful music starts to arise. Divine music starts to arise from this instrument. And the end goal, the end reality, the final attainment is that innate bliss which you always were. And that's why you see happiness bathed, the spiritual masters are bathed in happiness. There is no thing as unhappiness for the spirit, for the enlightened. Don't you see them smiling and laughing all the time?
Is it possible to be happy in these circumstances that we're living in today? I am feeling happy, unfortunately, because, or despite, not unfortunately, let me put it this way. Despite the problems that we are facing and despite the challenges, external challenges, right? I don't know, as I told you, right? I feel like this has been an opportunity of being, with myself, self-reflection, like being in a humble place. And that has made me a very happy person. My question really is, if what we were living and we were calling normal, that we're producing so much stress, why do we have to live with so much stress?
You don't have to live with stress. It's a choice.
Do you think it's a choice? Don't you think society is designed to produce stress?
No, some people have circumstances that they cannot change that will give them stress. You have to do everything in your power to change those circumstances which you have power to change. But the ones that you cannot change, you turn that adversity into prosperity. How do you turn adversity into prosperity? You utilize the adversity and make it austerity.
What would you say to folks that work 8 to 5 and that are kind of exhausted and then they have to go back all the way 1 hour to their suburbs to live the American dream? That are so stressed out. My thing is, why the American dream has to be so associated with stress?
It's the in one hand, the question is, why does the American dream have to be associated with stress? What a question. The American dream is not inherently associated with stress. It became stressful. Mm-hmm. Okay, why did it become stressful? How did it become stressful?
because we are all focused on being successful, and being successful is accumulating a lot of material stuff. So
That's right.
Show off.
Gaining all kinds of wealth, you can never be fully satisfied.
That's what I'm referring to, you know, that the American dream tends to make people, full of stuff, but what about happiness? What about communication? What about, you know, in this road to success, material success, I think we have forgotten who we are as humans, individuals.
That's right. And what really makes a human being happy is not money.
What is it? Tell me, in your experience.
It's the desire for acquiring wealth and objects of the world will give you temporary happiness. Definitely. Intense sensations and flares of happiness. So does that happiness stay, Ava, or does it go away? It goes away.
I don't know.
Because you can't. Anybody who's watching right now, or watching this video, raise your hand. Acknowledge if you have had that happiness and that experience of happiness, and it's never gone away. Have you always been eternally happy? If the answer is no, then it is because we've been looking for our happiness in the wrong place.
Where should we look for happiness? I love that topic, because we all think that it's external, kind of, I think. Aren't we conditioned to think it's external? But why the conclusion in Buddhism and other philosophies is that it's internal? What does that mean?
That's right. So we have questions coming in through Instagram as well. So we're gonna get to those here right after. Yeah, we'll get to yours, Erin. So
and people in Facebook, please comment too.
We'll go.
I mean, the question is about internal, that happiness about on the external versus the internal, that we think that
like I was saying,
attain happiness, we have to get something out or to achieve something instead of something that is internal. How does that work? What is your answer to that?
Yeah, right. The internal and external conversation. It can be summarized in this one sutra. A sutra means thread, which you string together all these teachings into one thread. And the reason why human beings cannot be satisfied by acquiring wealth and objects of the world is because those objects are temporary and finite, and the human being is infinite. And something that is finite can never satisfy something that is infinite. Okay.
Are we infinite or we die?
We are infinite. All right, so now we're getting to Erin's question, and that question is, does having a significant other or romantic partner make it more difficult to achieve a balanced, equanimous mind?
That's a very good question.
Or is that another play of the mind that really has nothing to do with truth? Given that liberation is an internal process and experience, I can't imagine that another person has much to do with it. Yet this is a lie my mind often tells me. What a wonderful question, Erin. I love the true spiritual seekers find Skylight Yoga. The genuine, we're here for one reason and we're aiming at one goal, and it's the same goal. So, all right. When it comes to a spiritual other, a significant other, we're a soul. So you know yourself as the soul. We're all individual souls. And those two individual souls can be like branches or twigs of a tree that hangs off the bank of a river. And when the wind blows and all of a sudden those two twigs find themselves blown off the tree and in the river. And they're going down the river together. And they have very good experiences, beautiful experiences, some not so good experiences, like a rock comes and they break apart and then come back together, right? Two twigs can never be together permanently. Two sticks can never stay together permanently. Time, Mother Nature will make those two twigs go their separate directions. When you have to give up the physical body, when you have to give up the personality and all the relationships that came with this ego personality. So you'll become then back to your essential nature, your soul's having the individual experience. This world, this life that the soul takes in its individual journey to self-realization, we're all moving, remember, we're all rays of the sun who have wandered off from the sun and think that we're different from the sun, but in actuality, in reality, you're nothing but the sun. A ray of the sun is not different from the sun, but it thinks it's different. So when it comes to a ray of the sun, knowing it's the sun, nothing is needed. You are already Sat Chitananda, Brahman, existence, consciousness, bliss, absolute. That's why it's called a revelation or a realization, because it happens like that, because it doesn't need any time nor a special place. You don't have to go on a pilgrimage to a special place.
So having a significant other helps or not?
So Ava's making me come back to the question as, does it make it more difficult? That's the question, to have a balanced and equanimous mind. And it doesn't. It doesn't make it more difficult. You are making a choice with everything we do in the life. So choosing to be engaging with somebody, your time, your energy, your thoughts, your feelings, these are your most precious things that you have. So choosing to share that with someone should be a joyous process. It should be beneficial in many, many ways and nourishing in many, many ways.
But it's difficult, right? Not that easy, as it sounds.
It's not as easy as it sounds because of karmic attachment.
Oh, tell me about this, please. I need to know. You know, that's my favorite topic, karma.
Karma is your favorite topic, huh?
Yeah.
Karmic attachment exists. What do I mean by karmic attachment? Karmic attachment is, if you do something for me, entanglement. When you do something for somebody, you expect a reward from it. In relationships, that goes on, it's called conditional love. When you have conditional love, that means that you're waiting for this expectation, this recognition, this reciprocation. And if it's not met exactly how your fondly cherished mental picture has it, problem, big problem has arisen. So that's what the karmic attachment is. So a yogi, Aaron, to answer your question, the yogi then utilizes this wisdom and prevents attachment from entering the action, even done with one significant other. So you're giving for the sake of giving. See, this modern world analogy applies, is that if a doctor had attachment to the patient and the type of medicine the doctor was giving the patient and the type of surgery that was being performed, we'd have big problems. Because the patients are different and the diagnoses and the conditions are all different.
That's what I would call culture, you know. When you are used to do things in a certain way, or you have certain assumptions that are the basis of how you act, and then all of a sudden realize that those assumptions are not useful anymore. What do you do? A lot of people are still like afraid, but I think the road is to change. We are changing anyway, right? Why not accepting the change?
It's a question. What is the secret of karma yoga? The secret of the yoga of action? How do you turn all actions into selfless action? How do you attain the blessed goal of life, immortality? Through your action is by doing the action for the sake of doing the action. Yes. Let's see.
Another question?
Yeah. So here we go. I sent Aaron a request to be on this. Blessings, Aaron.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm good.
Nice to see you.
Talk to you.
Yeah. All right. So you had another follow-up question here.
Essentially, these are things I've felt. A lot of what you said are things that I've felt. And I have felt a lot of conditional love. And I suppose I've been, in a way, seeking unconditional love. Not that I've been perfect at giving it. There are plenty of times when I've had the experience of giving something and hoping for something to come back to me from it. But I often also experience very unconditional love. And I suppose trying to cultivate that within a relationship with another person, it seems like a challenge, and it's not necessarily something that I desire. I don't feel like a need for a union with another person. I seek inner union. But I do have like a special person in my life, and they've been in my life for like 12 years. We've known each other for a long time. And I suppose the question is, if I feel these truths, is it possible to be with somebody who might not feel them, or who might not yet have felt them? I feel like I've been very blessed to have certain experiences in my life that have led me to a point of consciousness or awareness or something, that I'm able to kind of release a certain expectation or a certain need for outcome or whatever, or any need for a person to be or stay as a certain thing, stuff like that. And partnering with somebody, it seems like unless they have that same discernment, it wouldn't get very far, because for me it's a very frustrating experience.
Hey. Okay, good question. Pause. To summarize your question, or is it possible, so to summarize the question, everyone who is now joining, well, one and all, do you want to summarize your own question? I don't want to put words in your mouth, so yeah.
You probably put good words in my mouth, but I would say that the shortest way I can think to phrase it is when maybe you don't seem to be on the same, I don't know what to call it, spiritual plane of what feels right to you. That seems to be a big rock in the middle of trying to relate with someone over a long span of time at a deep, intimate level. And, can that be done? I know it's back to choice. And for me, the answer would be no. It would make me miserable, but there's an unconditional love that I have there that I would like to see them also be free and I see potential in relationship, that there's great potential in a relationship for spiritual expansion and growth, and certain things we can't access alone. So I guess I'm just curious about the spirituality of relationships, and I don't know that there's one.
Yeah, the spirituality of relationships. Here we go. Namaste, the one and only Corey Chase.
And I said to provide
teaching say about householder living, and it says quite a bit. So we have these 4 stages in our life and 4 goals of our life. What you want to know is, how can I achieve my goal of life while having a partner? And not only that, is that what kind of partner would support me in my pursuit to attain my blessed goal of life? Is that the good question to ask? That's right.
Do you have that answer, please? Because I'm going to hire you.
I have the answer. Let me get it ready. Okay. So the first goal of your life is to do everything with the foundation of ethics, having an ethical foundation of your life. That's going to be the basics for you to attain anything of real value, is to have that moral or ethical foundation in life. That's called Dharma in Sanskrit. And that's the first of the Purusharthas, which are the self-efforts. The 4 Purusharthas are the 4 goals of every single human embodiment. The life is not fulfilled without fulfilling these 4 goals in a profound way. First is Dharma, ethical. What do we do when we are young? The first stage is we go to school and we learn morality, we learn ethics, and we learn how to operate in a moral and just way in society at a young age. And that's why Dharma is number 1, and we learn school first. Then you have Artha. Artha means gaining wealth in the world. So material wealth, material value of life. First one, ethical value, Dharma. Second one, Artha, material value of life. There's no confusion, so there's no confusion. This is a material world. Therefore, there has to be materiality in this life and in this existence as well. So we're never going to be without material. Therefore, you have to acquire material value in your life. Otherwise, you will be unfulfilled. The third is Kama. Kama means, do you know this book called the Kama Sutra? Right. So Kama means desire. Kama means desire. And the desire for what? The desire for a vital fulfillment in one's life. Vital energies run through this being, right? These vital energies go by many names in Sanskrit. First, starting with the one people most know is Kundalini Shakti, Ojas, Tejas, Virya, Prana. All this is to point at this vital energy running through our body and running through this being. And if that vital energy is not satisfied in a profound way, in the real way it becomes satisfied, then you feel like you're unfulfilled in life. And then the last one is moksha, liberation, freedom. Freedom from what? Freedom from all the previous 3. Freedom from all the previous 3. That's the spiritual realization. That's enlightenment. That's true freedom.
You can't skip.
And that's the real goal of our lives. But people place more emphasis on one or the other. All the previous 3 are to enable you to have moksha. liberation. So if this is the reality and the real goal of life, realization, enlightenment, then acquiring a sattvic lifestyle, promoting a sattvic lifestyle, sattvic purity, having the mind and the atmosphere and the body based in purity. That's the only way that all this moksha happens and will work, is if you start to adopt purity. And what does that mean? It means firstly in our environment, keeping your environment clean, keeping your house and your room and everything clean, keeping your body clean, body, hair, everything in your body clean, keeping your food clean and pure, natural, simple, wholesome diet, vegetarian, vegan. But then you talk about cleaning the mind and keeping the mind pure and the mind clean. Now is a different pursuit. Now is a different level of a goal. You've upgraded your goal and you say, okay, I have to keep this physical body clean and my environment clean, but I have greater purpose in life, and that's self-realization. Therefore, it will require my mind to be clean. And now when we're talking about cleaning the mind, we don't want to hold these resentments, anger, greed, jealousy, lust. These are the generals of the demoniac army. And if you practice yoga asana, you ever do Ashtanga Pranam, the 8-point praying pose, that is the one that's supposed to cut the head off the 8 generals of the demoniac army. And these generals of the demoniac army, like I was mentioning, are like jealousy and gossip and greed and hatred, and those all exist in our mind. So you have to keep the right thoughts around you. Read inspiring scriptures and read about the lives of sages and saints who have attained the blessed goal of life. Read about their lives and be inspired and inhale that spiritual fragrance that keeps the mind pure and sattvic. Also, the company we keep has a great influence on our spirituality. So I think on that note, it's been about an hour. So I think we should conclude here, and I'll conclude with a story, Ava, if that's okay with you as well. Sure. I'd like to conclude with a story from Buddha's life, and it has to do with the company you keep. And the story goes like this. So back in the India, when you are a saint, you don't make money. You don't get money. When you're an enlightened master, you don't take money for your own egoistic pleasure. You may have an ashram and make publications and make millions of dollars, but those dollars do not go feed your egoistic pursuits and your egoistic pleasure. So the Buddha is a saint and an enlightened master, and he's going out with his disciples to collect alms, charities. Back in the olden times in India, when an enlightened master, a yogi, a jnani, or any type of yogi, any spiritual ascetic would come to your house begging for food, it was a blessing that you got to give physical food to nourish the body and keep those spiritual vibrations emitting into this neighborhood, into your community, into your household, and into the world. You're getting a profound blessing when Buddha and any sage and any person comes to your door. Here at the Skylight Yoga Ashram, people come knocking at our door for all kinds of things. It's always open and we always are giving because this is an opportunity. So Buddha is going out with his disciples and asking for alms. And on the way there, the Buddha asked one of his disciples to stop and pick up a rope. And the disciple said, okay, fine, I'll go pick up this rope. And the Buddha then asked him to smell the rope. And the disciple's like, I'm wondering what's happening here. So I smell the rope, and oh my God, he almost vomited. the rope smelled so disgusting and so nasty, and almost so nauseating, almost made him vomit. And Buddha's like, what's up? What's wrong? And the disciple's like, the rope smells awful. And the Buddha says, why does the rope smell? And the disciple's like, I have no idea. And then the Buddha says, but tell me though, how does a rope smell this bad? Does a rope have any inherent smell on its own? And the disciple says, no, I guess the rope doesn't have any inherent smell on its own. The rope is smellless. When the rope comes to this world, it has no smell. Very good. They go collect the alms. On the way back, Buddha asked another disciple to pick up a piece of paper from the road. And the disciple is told to smell the piece of paper. And the disciple smiles in ecstasy and joyous. And the Buddha says, what's up over there? Having some experience with a piece of paper. And the disciple says, the paper smells like the greatest divine garden of fragrance, and like sandalwood. And the Buddha says, why does the paper smell so good? And he says, I don't know. Does the paper have any inherent smell on its own? Did the paper come like this, or what happened? He says, no, I guess the paper doesn't have any smell on its own. And the Buddha's teaching is that we human beings are just like the rope in the paper. We absorb the characteristics of the people we surround ourselves with.
Okay. Thank you so much.
So keeping pure people around you, spiritually enlightened people who are also letting those same divine virtues blossom and allow those blossoms to happen from your heart, and allow those spiritual fragrance to waft into your household, into your relationships, and into your community. You will be attaining the blessed goal of life.
I love your confidence about what you said. I love it. I share it.
And with this, we will conclude with a Sanskrit prayer for peace.
Thank you so much, Sujal. I wanted to thank you for the opportunity to get to know a little bit more about Buddhism. Go ahead.
Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvina Vaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Thank you so much.
Om Shri Gurave Namah. Om Tat Sat. Blessings.
Namaste. Thank you so much.
Namaste. Thank you
Appreciate
for joining
your time and knowledge.
Come and join us every Tuesday and Thursday, yeah? Tuesday and Thursday.
Okay, yeah, please, can you please let people know about what is it that you're doing now online?
Yeah, online memberships and classes are active here. Tuesdays, we're doing asana pranayama, fundamentals of hatha yoga. How do you keep your best physical body and mind clean and pure and healthy? and that's Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern time. And as well as Thursdays, we have satsangs, discourses like the one you just heard today, and then followed by Q&A. So that's Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern time.